the '69 song. Probably the most iconic open mic song ever is the '69 song.
Ever.
What other ones?
Well, as we mentioned, Sugar by Zuby because he's got 14 million views on YouTube.
And
you can find that on the Budapest Open Mic YouTube channel.
And then we have Jealous Type.
Wow, there's plenty. You got Denny, fucking Pole Dancer.
I was gonna say Pole Dancer.
Is that
Pole Dancer? I've not heard
Rach?
that.
I haven't heard that.
Fuck You.
Fuck you. No, that's the different one.
Yeah,
What about the 13th century Turkish song?
Yo, of course. That's I love Arif. But somebody close to me the other day was watching an open mic that happened, I think, somewhere in the past. And like, does he not know any other songs? Because he always just like he plays the same. I'm like, Arif knows he's an encyclopedia of songs, but he just chooses to play those same fucking songs all the time. It's like
not always. Not always.
He does. I know. I was in a band with him, dude, and that was the hardest band I'd ever been in my life. Was learning Arif's fucking rock and roll punk style songs because I'm a straight fucking rock and roll guy, man, and he puts all this weird, jazz, Turkish rhythms together, man, and I'm like, I find myself counting, and I'm not that math is not my strong suit.
He's great, man.
No, I love dude. Arif, he made me. Him and Jeff made me the best musician I could ever be because before I met those guys, I thought I was a good musician, but. Playing with Sly and those guys, it just made and that's another offshoot of this. What we were talking about, this open mic community.
You just get better.
You're always out, and like he always plays open mic. I don't, but I like when I was playing with Jeff, I was always playing bass at least 3 nights a week. Before I was doing that, I was in a cover band, and so I was just playing the same shit all the time. Now I'm improvising and doing things that it just taught me a totally different way of being a musician. I was
without this scene, like I would not have my music out.
Yeah.
In the world.
When that's the thing too. When I first met you had like 1 or 2 or 3 songs, and I'm like, dude, learn some new shit. And then you come back, you learn 1 or 2 new songs, and now you have a repertoire. You can have a fucking whole gig.
I had a massive repertoire before.
I know you did, but I know, yeah.
Yeah,
that's like 5 years without playing music.
But
man.
can we say that this scene inspired you, Ken?
It was
or motivated you, or somehow it pushed you. Good,
right
cool.
time,
That's all I was curious because it has happened to a lot of people, including the hosts. I mean, look at Tito, look at me. I mean, I cannot even put it into words, like how much I benefited from it musically.
Yeah.
It's another thing that sometimes I now prefer hearing other people than myself. So there are many nights when I don't play at all.
Well,
because if there are enough players, I don't want to take the time away from them.
That's why I had to learn my shtick, because it's like I can't sing, so
right.
That's the difference. That's what sets me apart from the two of you guys. It's like you can always get up there and fucking play a couple songs.
It's just to fill time.
I can't wait.
So I have to walk around. So my thing was that yelling. If there wasn't no people, I would just sit there and walk around and bullshit with everybody and create a nice atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Cool.
And like, buy people shots and drinks and just have a good time. And like
make
sure
that's
that
one way
there was
it.
Nobody playing. Then when people started playing, they're like, "Oh, this is really good." We didn't realize there was 30 minutes of dead air in the beginning.
How long do you think this shit could go on for, like this?
If it wasn't a lockdown, it would still be the same. I think. I don't know. I think it might have burned. I think it was at the precipice of burning itself out, because it was like fucking 3 nights and the same, or three open mics a night and shit. It was like it became so good, and everybody wanted a piece of it, that it started falling apart. People were picking it apart, and it was just sinking.
Well,
it was like it was sinking. The core was still there. Of course.
It's also the question of reaching out, and honestly, since I speak Hungarian and all that, one of my missions has been to reach out to
you brought a lot of new
audience,
scene,
a new pool of performers, because there are new people growing up every year, all these art schools, all these music schools, and I really started focusing on also reaching out to the local, up and coming wannabe musicians, who might be very, very talented. Not every time, but most of the time, I would say they were really,
but they get to
really
work
good.
on their craft.
Most people have enough humility that
most people.
First they come and they check out the scene.
Zoki
they listen.
And Dora, they told me,
exactly.
They came to Yellen like 4 or 5 times before they even got up on stage because they didn't think they were good enough to play.
They listen. They try to get the vibes,
like,
and then they sign up.
I'm like,
and then they sign up, and that's what a lot. So basically, you know, I really kind of tried to make an effort because, you know, I am still convinced that there are still a lot of people out there that we have to reach out to.
And that was the biggest thing for me with Yellen, was that Hungarians always felt when they would come, they wouldn't feel very welcome. They always felt like they were not welcome.
It was so anglophone.
Because we get so many tourists or student, you know, like Erasmus students and shit at Yellen. It was always very English speaking, and I'm like, I don't want it to be like that. So when Hungarians would come, I'm like, listen, man, I'm sorry, but you're more than welcome here. It has nothing to do, but just. These are the people that happen to come here. You know what I mean?
But then there will be other venues, you know, that have a bigger Hungarian. Like Mika always had a Hungarian audience too, because they were regulars going there just to chill, just to have a drink or something.
More
you know? It's more of the scene.
Kind of,
but Mika is part of the is part of the local scene. For example, Lampas. You know,
Lampas is a.
It's not everywhere.
It's not everywhere. Or some shit. You know what I mean?
But anyway,
it's like if you go to Budapest, did you go to Lampas? Yeah, I got herpes in the fucking toilet. I don't know. But something jumped on my dick. I don't know.
Quote unquote competition and what I want to do with open mic.
But that was, I understand that, but that was an accident too, quite honestly. The way Lampas surfaced was actually through this guy Gergő, who was the event manager at Elatuhas, and he's the one who had contacts with Lampas. I didn't. I loved Lampas, but
the thing is, I knew everybody in fucking Lampas, but they never offered me the gig.
Right, but it was Gergő. But it was Gergő who convinced them that they should have they should have open mics on Sundays out of all days, and like a late starting one.
Wow. That's the thing. It's like, who'd have thought Yellen would have worked on a Monday? You know
nobody would have. That was so unlikely, but it worked out.
Day of the fucking week when it's open.
Stuff to the family.
Guys, to the family.
Yep.
You're part of it too, yeah.
It's a nice reunion, isn't it? You know,
this is nice.
After a couple of years,
that's the nicest palinka I've ever tasted.
It's not bad.
Very nice palinka.
It's just Regan.
It's a honey. It's called a honey.
That's my jam.
Really good.
You better get a few of them for when you open back up, yeah.
That's nice.
You're gonna be drinking it?
Put a few bottles aside if you don't mind.